Greed is a silent poison. It begins slowly, often unnoticed, a desire here, a shortcut there. But left unchecked, it becomes a force that can ruin lives, destroy families, and in this case, land a couple behind bars. Today, we are digging deep into one of the most talked about true crime cases involving a Filipino couple in Canada. Who allowed their hunger for luxury and power to spiral into outright fraud. This is a story of deception, fake identities, stolen money, and shattered trust. Our story begins in Ontario, Canada, with a seemingly ordinary couple, Ryan and Emma Mendoza. On the surface, they were model immigrants. Ryan worked as a financial advisor, while Emma ran an event planning business. They smiled at neighbors, attended church, and threw lavish dinner parties that made them the talk of the community. But beneath that polished exterior was a shocking truth that no one could have imagined. Ryan and Emma were not just living the Canadian dream, they were funding it through an elaborate web of scams and deceit. Their crimes would eventually be exposed, but not before they swindled hundreds of thousands of dollars from individuals, organizations, and even government programs. The first red flag was subtle. A few of Ryan's clients began noticing discrepancies in their financial accounts. Promised returns never materialized. Emails went unanswered. One woman, a retired teacher who had invested her life savings with Ryan, became suspicious when he suddenly stopped returning her calls. She reported him to authorities, but initially, there was not enough evidence to launch a full investigation. Meanwhile, Emma was living large. Her Instagram feed was filled with designer outfits, luxury hotel stays, and extravagant parties. But what her followers did not know was that many of those glamorous images were funded with stolen money. Emma claimed her success came from her event planning business, yet no one could point to a major event she had ever organized. Things began to unravel when an anonymous tip reached the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. It claimed Ryan and Emma were using fake identities to apply for loans, open bank accounts, and even register businesses. Investigators started to follow the money, and what they found was staggering. The couple had established multiple shell companies, which existed only on paper. These companies were used to apply for government COVID-19 relief programs during the pandemic. In total, they received over 400,000 in funds by faking employee numbers and forging payroll documents. It was a carefully crafted scheme, and it had worked. Until now, investigators also uncovered that Ryan had been operating as an unlicensed financial advisor. Despite presenting himself as a certified expert, he held no credentials. In fact, he had previously been fined in the Philippines for a similar investment scam, but had managed to escape accountability by moving to Canada and starting fresh. Emma, too, had a checkered past. She had once been involved in a wedding planning scandal back in Manila, where several couples were left without venues or vendors on their wedding day, despite having paid in full. The turning point in the case is what really made headlines. Authorities executed a search warrant at the couple's home. Inside, they found luxury items worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, Rolex watches, Hermes bags, Louboutin shoes, and even a custom-built wine cellar. But the most shocking discovery was a set of fake passports, driver licenses, and social insurance numbers. Each identity came with a corresponding bank account and credit card. It became clear that the couple had been living a double life. To the world, they were hardworking immigrants who had built a successful life. In reality, they were seasoned fraudsters with a taste for the high life and no regard for those they hurt. By this point, the community was in shock. Friends and neighbors, who had once praised the couple, now questioned everything. One former friend described how Emma had convinced her to invest in a wedding expo that never happened. Another neighbor revealed that Ryan had offered him a get-rich-quick investment scheme, which he had wisely declined. When the trial began, the courtroom was packed. The prosecution painted a picture of calculated greed. Ryan and Emma had not just stumbled into fraud, they had designed and executed their schemes with chilling precision. Their greed knew no bounds, and their lies were woven into every aspect of their lives. The defense tried to argue that the couple were victims of financial hardship, forced into desperate measures. But the evidence was overwhelming. The receipts, forged documents, multiple identities, and luxury purchases left no room for doubt. After a 2-week trial, the jury returned with a verdict: guilty on all counts. Ryan was sentenced to 12 years in prison for fraud over 5,000 $5,000, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Emma received a 10-year sentence for her role in the deception. The judge called their actions a gross betrayal of trust and an insult to the integrity of honest immigrants who come to Canada seeking a better life. What makes this case so viral and disturbing is how far the couple went to maintain their illusion. They had every opportunity to live a decent, honest life in Canada, but for them, enough was never enough. Their story became a cautionary tale, not just in Filipino and Canadian communities, but across the globe. And here is where the story takes another unexpected twist. Following their conviction, several new victims came forward. It turned out that the couple had also operated an online mentorship program targeting young entrepreneurs, promising secrets to success. They charged up to $5,000 per person for access to their so-called exclusive wealth building strategies. The course materials were mostly plagiarized, the advice generic, and the testimonials faked. Despite their arrest, the ripple effects of their scam continue. Families lost their savings. Elderly clients were left with nothing to retire on. Young people who had trusted them with dreams of financial independence now carry the weight of betrayal. The damage cannot be fully undone, and trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. One key question remains: how did they get away with it for so long? The answer lies in a mixture of charm, manipulation, and exploitation of loopholes. Ryan was articulate, well-dressed, and knew how to speak the language of finance. Emma played the perfect socialite, always supportive and ready with a smile. Together, they convinced people to trust them, and then used that trust as a weapon. Authorities have since urged the public to remain vigilant. Fraudsters often blend in, sometimes too well. They look like your neighbors, your friends, and even your financial advisors. But behind the scenes, they may be weaving a web of lies, much like Ryan and Emma did. The irony is that their downfall was not triggered by a massive FBI-style investigation. It started with one woman who refused to stay silent, one retired teacher who believed something was off, and who decided to report what she experienced. Her courage ignited an investigation that would eventually expose the full extent of the couple's deception. So, what can we learn from this? The first lesson is that appearances can be deceiving. Just because someone wears designer clothes or lives in a big house does not mean they earned it honestly. Second, trust should be earned, not given. Especially when it comes to your money, ask questions, demand proof, do your research, and finally, never underestimate the power of speaking up. One voice can lead to justice. The story of Ryan and Emma Mendoza is not just about greed and fraud. It is about how ambition, when fueled by dishonesty, can destroy everything in its path. They had potential opportunities and the respect of their community, but they threw it all away for luxury cars and fake status. Now, instead of a mansion, they live in prison cells. Instead of followers, they have case numbers. Their story, though viral, is also tragic. If you found this case shocking and want to hear more true crime stories like this, make sure to subscribe to Dark Case Diaries, where we uncover the darkest corners of crime, betrayal, and human behavior. Every case we cover brings lessons, warnings, and sometimes closure. Also, do not forget to watch our next video. It will be one of the most jaw-dropping stories we have ever told, and you do not want to miss it. Until next time, stay safe, stay alert, and always question the glitter, because not everything that shines is gold.